Today's rather lengthy passage from John invites a three-part reflection on forgiveness, service, and the cost of discipleship. First, forgiveness. The gospel has two primary actors, Jesus and Peter. The last encounter between the two of them before the events in today's story was when Jesus told Peter that he would deny him 3 times. And as we know, Peter did precisely that. And in today's narrative, Jesus asks Peter a question. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Do you love me? Scripture scholars suggest that Peter's threefold affirmative response implies a forgiveness or a reconciliation between Peter and Jesus. They sat down, broke bread, and shared fish, a reconciling gesture. The obvious application of this gospel to ourselves is that we are invited to imitate both Christ and Peter. We need to be reconciled to those from whom we are estranged, especially if we are estranged from Christ. Who is it in your life that you need to forgive? Or from whom should we be seeking forgiveness? 2 easy questions with sometimes very difficult and complicated answers. The second lesson from the gospel is drawn from the very same exchange between Peter and Jesus. The question, do you love me, is responded to, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. But then Christ adds, feed my sheep. It's not enough to simply pay lip service to Christ. Yes, I love you. Christ wants to see some action. He seems to expect that we will follow through with more than words, but with deeds. Feed, tend. One of the themes of Pope Francis' early homilies is that all followers of Christ must be of service to the other, even the Pope, or as the Bishop of Rome, as he often refers to himself. Francis encourages all of us to be aware of the folks that are on what he calls the edge. We might use the term marginalized. How can we serve them as individuals or as part of the public policies we support? I've mentioned before one line in the U.S. Bishop's Pastoral on the Economy written back in the 80s. The bishop said that we should judge any social or economic policy with the answer to 2 questions. What does this do to the poor? And what does this do for the poor? The third and final point has to do with the last thing that Jesus tells Peter in today's gospel. When you were younger, you used to dress yourself and go where you wanted. But when you grow old, someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. And John indicates that this is a prediction of the death, the crucifixion that Peter will experience. And if we serve Christ, we should not be surprised that we're asked to carry some sort of cross. There is no real discipleship without some type of cross. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a Lutheran pastor and theologian who was killed in a Nazi concentration camp. He wrote a book called The Cost of Discipleship. And he always said that there's no such thing as cheap grace. It always costs us something to be the disciple. Forgiveness, service, and cost. 3 points for our reflection on the 3rd Sunday of Easter.